The LA Kings rally to knock off the defending Stanley Cup champs with a gutty win. That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for over 30 years. I'm co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the LA Kings closed out their mini two-game homestand, hosting the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, one of the top teams in the East and the NHL. The Kings were coming off an ugly 5-1 home loss in their last game on Monday against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and had lost 4 of 5, only scoring 4 total goals in those 4 losses. As a result, the Kings made some changes to their lineup and to their setup. They did not play the 11-7 setup we've been used to recently with the 11 forwards and the 7 defensemen. Instead, the Kings went back to the traditional 12-6 lineup with 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. The top line remained unchanged, at least to start the game. Anze Kopitar with Adrian Kempe and Alex Turcotte. Second line of Quinton Byfield centering Trevor Moore and Warren Foegele. Third line of Philip Deneau with Kevin Fiala and Akil Thomas inserted into the lineup, playing on the other wing. And the fourth line would be Samuel Helenius with Trevor Lewis and Tanner Jeannot. The defensive pairings a little bit different as well. Mikey Anderson and Vladislav Gavrikov still the top pairing, but Joel Edmondson would be paired with Jordan Spence, and Jacob Moverar would be paired with Brandt Clarke. So Spence and Clarke basically switching spots on the right side of the defense. Darcy Kemper would be back in net after getting the Pittsburgh game off, David Riddick returning to the backup role. So the big question going into this game for me, pretty simple. Would the Kings bounce back from what I thought was their worst home loss of the season? Well, checking the game summary in this one, to start, the Kings looked pretty good. Kings were back to playing solid defense, limiting the Panthers to only 5 shots on goal. Unfortunately, while LA had 8 shots on goal, they also squandered a couple of power play chances in what was a pretty even scoreless opening period. Second period, the defending champs then took over, outshot LA 17-6, and scored the first goal of the game on the power play. The Kings needed some kind of a spark in the third period to try and rally and at least get a point out of this one, and they would get that spark in the form of an unexpected source, and that would be rookie Samuel Helenius scoring his first career NHL goal. After that, the Kings took off, outshot the Panthers 14-6, eventually would get the go-ahead goal on an Adrian Kempe deflection. Kings were then able to hold on for the victory. Got a little bit lucky as Panthers forward Matthew Tkachuk did miss a wide-open net with the extra attacker. Of course, the Kings also had Warren Foegele miss a wide-open empty net as well. But the Kings get the win 2-1, improved to 26-14-5 on the year for 57 points. Kings are now 15-3-1 at home. That's the best home record in the NHL. LA trails Edmonton by 4 points for second place in the Pacific Division. The Kings now have a 6-point lead on Calgary for that third spot in the Pacific. As for the game stats in this one, a pretty even game. Again, I thought the first period was even. Second period went to Florida, but the third period goes to LA. In the end, 2-1 win for the Kings. Shots on goal were exactly even, 28 for each team. Power play, Kings 0 for 2. Florida, their lone goal did come with the man advantage. They were 1 for 2. Faceoffs were identical, 26 apiece as far as faceoffs won. Hits favored the Panthers 28-16. Block shots favored the Kings 19-14. So what was good from an LA team standpoint? Well, the defense. We can talk about offense all we want, and I get why it's been a concern, especially of late. But without the defense keeping the Kings in position to win, the offense doesn't matter. You allow 5 goals to Pittsburgh, Kings have no chance pretty much to win that game. You allow 1 goal against the Panthers, that's a game the Kings at least have a shot of winning. Now, when there's not a lot of room, there's not a lot of space, the teams aren't getting a lot of high-quality chances, especially the Kings, you got to work for your goals. And the Kings did that. 2 hardworking blue-collar goals in the third period to pull out what felt like a really big win. Kings out shooting Florida 14-6 in the third period. So always great to close a game out strong. And if you can come from behind and get a win, even better. This was the 4th time this season the Kings had trailed entering the third period and ended up winning the game. Kings have still not lost 3 in a row since very early in the season. So again, you're looking at consistency, not a lot of highs and lows for the Kings, right? There's not a lot of peaks and valleys. They're a pretty consistent team. They're not going to, or they haven't to this point, gone in any prolonged kind of losing streaks to really hurt them. So great win for the Kings, way to bounce back, and a good team win for LA. What was not so good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Well, the power play. Say it every game, just about. 2 power play chances in the first period, and the first power play was okay. They got a couple of decent looks. Second one, not so good. Not really many opportunities. The power play continues to be a struggle. It's not getting any better. You know, it looked like going into the third period that those 2 missed opportunities could turn up to be huge. Thankfully, in the end, it did not turn out to be as big as it looked like it was going to be. But the Kings, when they get in those close games and they're having trouble scoring like they have been of late, things like the power play not doing well really, really get magnified. As far as our coach's quote from this one, from Jim Hiller, he could have talked about, the game as a whole, but I wanted to get the coach's thoughts on Samuel Helenius getting the key goal of the game, getting his first NHL goal. And this is what Jim Hiller had to say about that. Quote, "There's few things that are better than seeing a guy score his first goal. It's just a special moment. You work long and hard to get to the NHL, and then you get to score a goal. It's pretty cool. I don't think anybody expected Sammy to be scoring his first NHL goal this season. You know what I mean? So it's kind of extra special. He had a great summer, finished the season strong in Ontario last year during the playoffs, but no expectations for him to help us at all. So all things combined, you're really happy for him," end quote. So my big takeaway from this game, gritty, gutty win by the Kings. I know, not a sexy win, maybe. I don't know. I loved it. I know it would be nice to not grind out wins. It would be fun, I guess, if we were this high-flying, high-scoring team that had highlight reel goals. But when things get hard and you're not getting room or time or space to make plays, what do? You get gritty. You get dirty. You work hard. You crash the net. You put pucks on net. Those greasy goals are playoff type goals. In the playoffs, it gets harder. Teams are blocking shots. Teams aren't giving you that time and space. They're really working hard on defense. So sometimes you got to really just outwork another team. And certainly individual skill, those types of things are always important. It's a factor. But again, when it's not there working for you, when the guys can't get room to get off those shots, got to work at it, got to work hard. And the Kings did. And they got a gritty, gutty victory against a good team. And hopefully they can take a little momentum, a little mojo out of this one on what is going to be a pretty challenging 5-game road trip coming up. Up next, we're going to look at some individuals from this latest win over the Florida Panthers. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and a variety of betting options keeps it exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement for the playoffs, FanDuel has got you covered. We're down to the Final Four in the NFL. The Eagles are 6.5-point home favorites against the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, and the Chiefs are 1.5-point home favorites against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC title game. Just visit FanDuel.com, join today, and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's get into some individuals in this game for the LA Kings in their win over the Florida Panthers, the 2-1 victory. And we always start with the goaltender and Darcy Kemper. Another stellar game for him, allowed just the one goal on 28 shots, lowered his goals against average on the season to 2.06. That's second best in the entire NHL. Increased his save percentage to 9.24. That is fourth best in the league. Kemper has been good all season, but he's taken it up another notch so far lately. In January, 7 games this month, he's allowed 1 goal or less in 6 of those 7 starts. The 1 goal he allowed in this game against Florida was a power play goal. A shot off the boards, went towards the side of the net. A nice pass, kind of a no-look between the legs pass through the crease to a wide-open Florida player who tapped it in. Nice play by the Panthers. No shame on Darcy for letting that one in. Otherwise, he was fantastic, had quality saves throughout the game, especially in that second period when Florida was really kind of putting it on LA. Adrian Kempe, he gets the game-winning goal, his 24th of the season. That's tied for 8th most in the league. Also leads the Kings with 44 points. He now has a goal in 4 straight games, and like Darcy Kemper, he's taken his game up a notch so far this month. 9 games in the month of January. He's got 7 goals. 3 of them have been game-winning goals, as was this goal in the game against the Panthers. That game-winning goal did not come on a great move, on a move where he uses his blazing speed, and it wasn't a perfect wrist shot in the top corner of the net. Adrian Kempe won a physical battle for position in front of the net against former King Tobias Bornfoot, and the puck goes off his body and in. Greasy goal. And I just love the fact that the Kings' probably top skilled offensive player has no issues getting his hands dirty and scoring a goal like that. That's badass. I love it. He is a hardworking player. Obviously, he's got skill, he's got talent, and he would like to show that off as much as he can. But if he needs to go to the net and win a physical battle and get a puck go off his body and in, he'll absolutely do it. And then we saw that against the Florida Panthers. He actually probably should have had 2 goals in this game. And we'd be talking a lot more about this if the score had been different. But he got taken down going to the net, and there was no call. And then the puck and Kempe go into the net, bowl over the goaltender, Spencer Knight. And there was kind of some confusion as to what the call was going to be. If the puck goes in and there's like incidental contact and Kempe goes into the goaltender, if it crosses the line before the goal net becomes dislodged, that's a goal. They didn't really do a very good job explaining what was going on the TNT broadcast. The referees didn't really do a good job of explaining what the call was. If the whistle had blown before the puck went over the line, it looked to me like it went over the goal line before the net came off the post. But again, in the end, it didn't matter. But that was a weird situation, and Adrian Kempe almost had another goal. Obviously, Samuel Helenius. Great to see any rookie get his first career NHL goal. That is a special moment regardless of the circumstances. But when you get your first NHL goal in a key moment, and for that goal to spark your team to a big come-from-behind win, that is, and by the way, at home, you got the crowd going. That's awesome. That's one of the highlights of the season for me, is this Samuel Helenius goal. As for the goal, we talked about it. Get pucks on net, get bodies to the net. Helenius gets the loose puck, backhands it into a wide open net, just going to the net. Shot goes on net, he goes to the net. And Helenius only played 6 minutes and 50 seconds in this game. But we talked about it in the previous game against Pittsburgh. In the third period, when that one was kind of out of reach, Jim Miller played Samuel Helenius a lot. He gave him a lot of ice time and figured, let's make something out of a bad situation. Let's let this guy get some time. Let's let him get some minutes. So did that necessarily pay off in him getting this goal? I don't know, but it certainly couldn't have hurt. And you got to give it up to Jim Miller. You're down a goal in the third period, and he's still rolling out his fourth line. And they came through for him with getting that game-tying goal. And that was the turning point of the game. Before the Helenius goal, the Kings had 3 shots on goal in the first 6 minutes and 41 seconds of the third period. After the Helenius goal, they had 7 shots on goal in the next 6.5 minutes, and that turned into the game-winning goal from Adrian Kempe. So that Helenius goal absolutely sparked the team, fired up the guys, fired up the crowd, and to me was the tipping point in the Kings win. So good on Sammy Helenius for getting that first NHL goal and having it be an important goal in a big game. Tanner Jeannot, while Helenius got the goal and the glory, it was Tanner Jeannot that made that play happen. Point shot was blocked by a Panthers player, but Jeannot was in front of the net for a rebound. He one-handed his stick on the puck to knock it forward towards the goal. The save was made, but it went right. The rebound went right to Helenius, who put it in. So Jeannot gets an assist, but he really made that game-tying goal happen. Kevin Fiala moved to the top line with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe in the second period. It didn't really spark the team as maybe it was hoped it would, but Fiala did get the puck at the point, put a shot on net, as Jim Miller has been telling him to do. Shoot more. Don't worry about making fancy plays. Sometimes, especially when you're tied or you're trailing by a goal, get the shot on net. It goes off Adrian Kempe and in, and that's your game-winning goal. It'll be interesting to see if Fiala stays on the top line or if this was just a, in case of emergency, break glass kind of a move. For Fiala, his 11th assist on the season. He now has 26 points, and he's got 4 points in his last 4 games. Brandt Clarke was moved off that second pairing onto the third pairing. You, I think, could call it a demotion. Jim Hiller didn't call it that. He just said that he wanted to give Clarke a little bit more of a break, cut his ice time down a little bit. Interesting way of phrasing it. On the season, Brandt Clarke came into the game averaging just over 17 minutes of ice time per game. In this game, he had just over 11 minutes of ice time, but ended up making a very key play in this game. A great decision and a nice pass to the point to Kevin Fiala, who then shot it on net, and that went off Kempe and in for the game-winning goal. Clarke makes a nice high-to-low move, spins around, great vision to see Fiala up at the far point, gets him the puck, and that set into motion what would be the game-winning goal. Clarke now has 21 assists on the season with that secondary assist on the game winner, second most assists on the team to Anze Kopitar. He's got 24 points now on the season. I believe Jim Hiller when he said he does kind of want to give Clarke a little bit of a reset, maybe take a little bit of the responsibility off him because of a little less ice time. I don't think it's going to last too long. I think maybe, and it also could be a motivational type of thing. I'm going to cut back on your minutes. You need to play better to earn those minutes back. Regardless, that was a very nice play from Brandt Clarke, and I don't think it's going to be too long before we see him back on that second pairing. Jordan Spence was moved up to the second pairing. He played 21 minutes and 37 seconds against the Panthers. That's up from his season average of 17 minutes and 37 seconds. And while the Kings are having some of those offensive issues of late, I think the same reason that Spence was given more minutes is the same reason why he took over for Clarke as the quarterback on the number one power play unit. He is more direct at getting shots on net. He had the point shot in the first period he had a point shot up in the first period that went off the post. And then in the third period, he had the shot that was blocked that eventually Tanner Jeannot knocked towards the net, and then Samuel Helenius scored the first goal to tie it up. So again, it was his point shot that started that off. His 13th assist on the season, and now has 16 points. And so again, when the offense is a little bit dry and you're looking for more of a kind of a direct approach, that's why Jordan Spence gets the nod over Brandt Clarke. Although it was interesting that both of them, using their skills, ended up assisting on key goals. Spence with the direct shot on net, Clarke with the nice move, spin, and pass, make something happen, and he scores as well. So there are two ways of getting it done, and they both got it done in this game. I did want to mention the team defense for the Kings, always a strong suit for them, but the Panthers have a few elite players. One of them is Sam Reinhart. He's tied for second in the NHL in goals with 28. He was a total non-factor in this game. No points, just 3 shots on goal. They barely called his name. Alexander Barkov is an elite two-way center. No points for him. And yes, the Kings maybe got a little lucky with Matthew Tkachuk missing that open net in the final moments, but he also didn't have any points in the game. So good job of the Kings of shutting down the key players for the Florida Panthers. Some individual leaders in the game against Florida. Adrian Kempe and Samuel Helenius have the goals. Kevin Fiala, Tanner Jeannot, Brandt Clarke, Jordan Spence get the assists. Kempe, Anze Kopitar, Fiala, Jeannot, Helenius, Trevor Lewis, Clarke, Joel Edmondson, Jacob Vollera, and Spence all were plus players. The Kings had no minus players in this game. Adrian Kempe led the Kings with 5 shots on goal. Mikey Anderson led the Kings with 5 blocked shots. Akil Thomas led the Kings with 5 hits to tie or to have the team lead. And he only played 9 minutes and 31 seconds. So when he was out there, he was trying to make things happen by being physical. So good for Akil. Didn't factor into any of the goals. Didn't see him much in the third period. But when he was out there, he was looking to try and make something happen. Mikey Anderson led the Kings in ice time with 25 minutes and 2 seconds. And Andrei Kopitar was the best Kings player in the faceoff circle. He won 14 faceoffs and lost only 6. I did mention earlier Tobias Bjornfot for those that are interested. I do mention if there's a former King playing on the other team. Former Kings defenseman Tobias Bjornfot playing in this one for the Panthers, played 10 minutes and 47 seconds, no points, and he was a -2 in this game against his old team. All right, who are the Kings' 3 stars of the game in the big win over the Panthers? That is next on this edition of Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Those of us that live in Southern California are so lucky we have a place that we can live where we've got so many opportunities to see cool live events, sports, of course, but you got theater events, concerts, comedy shows, even TV shows being taped. When you check out those live events, no matter what you're used to, you need to use what I use, and that is Gametime for all my ticket needs. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and only shows you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And the all-in pricing feature shows you the total up front. There are no surprises at checkout, and you can see the vantage point with a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy it. You'll get the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's Gametime. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right. How about the 3 stars of the game for the LA Kings? Tanner Jeannot was in consideration for that great play he made on the game-tying goal, but I think it was pretty obvious to me who the 3 stars of the game were going to be. It was just like who was going to be the number 1 star, and I'm sentimental. I'm not afraid to admit it. So I'm going to go with Adrian Kempe as the number 3 star, even though he has the game-winning goal. And as much as I love that it was, working hard, getting in front of the net, it wasn't, it went off him and in. He had to be in front of the net to make that happen. And I give him total respect and credit for that. But it wasn't one of Adrian Kempe's highlight goals. But he gets the game winner. He definitely has to be one of the 3 stars. I thought Darcy Kemper had a tremendous game from start to finish, just allowing that 1 goal. Yeah, you could certainly make an argument for him being the number 1 star, but I said I'm sentimental, and it was the key goal that really turned the tide in this game. His first career NHL goal, and Samuel Helenius is my number 1 star in the big win over the Florida Panthers. Well, there's some news involving the LA Kings and the NHL. If you did not see the broadcast on TNT, it was announced during one of the intermissions that the Kings are going to be hosting a celebrity and NHL All-Star alumni charity event game to aid in the recovery for Los Angeles because of the wildfires. Actor Will Arnett, who you might know from Arrested Development, he was the voice of Lego Batman. He and Kings president Luc Robitaille were on the NHL on TNT pregame show announcing the Skate for LA Strong, which is what they're calling it. It's an event that's going to be held February the 23rd, 3 p.m. at Crypto.com Arena. Now, this is not a fan event. They're not selling tickets to raise money, so you can't buy tickets for this. It is specifically an event for first responders and people that have been directly affected by the fires. I have not heard if this event will be televised or streamed for fans to watch. Obviously, if I hear anything, I'll certainly pass that along, but certainly did want to mention this event. And unfortunately, the fires continue. Thoughts to all, including a couple of good friends of mine who have been threatened by the Castaic fire. So the fight goes on, and I know that the Kings did honor some firefighters and first responders before the game against Florida. Apparently there was supposed to be more there, but they literally had to not attend because they had to go to work because they had to fight the fires. So hopefully that situation gets under control very soon. But yeah, the fight still continues, unfortunately, against those fires. But the Kings try to do their part with this celebrity and NHL All-Star alumni event. Again, it's February the 23rd at 3 p.m. Crypto.com Arena. And if I get any more information on that, I will definitely pass that along. So the Kings are now heading out on the road for the final big road trip of the year. They had a 7-game road trip to start the season. They had a 5-game road trip recently. They've got this 5-game road trip, and that is by far the longest road trip remaining on the schedule. They've got a couple of, 2-game, 3-game road trips here and there. But after that, a lot of games at home, which is great because the Kings have been amazing at home so far this season. So coming up this Saturday, it starts off in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. If you haven't been keeping track of the NHL, Columbus has been one of the feel-good stories of the NHL. They lose their superstar, Johnny Gaudreau, in a tragic accident before the season starts. You're like, well, right off this team, they just lost their best player. And, obviously emotionally that was tough for them. They've battled back, and they're now holding a wild card spot in the East. They just came off a huge win in Toronto. So Columbus is going to be a real challenge for the Kings to start off this road trip. They'll then face former Kings head coach Todd McClellan in Detroit. That is coming up on Monday. And after an initial hot start when McClellan took over, the Wings have cooled off lately, but you can be sure that the Kings will be taking on their old coach, and he'll be looking for something to prove against the team that obviously fired him. You also have back-to-back games in Florida next Wednesday and Thursday. You've got a rematch against the Florida Panthers in their place, looking for some revenge for the win last night. And then the next night, tough matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then it all wraps up a week from this coming Saturday in Carolina against the always tough Carolina Hurricanes. So a big challenge for the LA Kings coming up, but nice to see them get a really hard-fought, come-from-behind home victory to kind of send them off on this trip with a little bit of momentum, hopefully. All right, for you everydayers, those of you that listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, we are going to have our weekly Kings fan feedback show on Friday. Looking forward to getting your emails. Last check, we only had a few so far. So if you want to get an email in, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. Any question is a good question. You can also post your thoughts if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. Really appreciate that. Would love you to stay interact with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings go.